Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Jordan Hetrick here. And in today's video, I want to help you get started with the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro action camera. In this beginner's guide for the Action 5 Pro, I'm going to unbox the camera and show you what comes in the kit. I also want to help you get the camera all set up and started so you can get out there and start filming with it. Along the way, I'm going to share some of my favorite tips and tricks to help you guys get the best footage possible. The Action 5 Pro is an amazing action camera, so I'm excited to help you guys tap into the full potential. Also, for those of you who haven't watched my videos before, I am the best-selling author of books about how to use action cameras, and I have a really great book for the Action 5 Pro. But here in today's video, I'm going to do my best to help you guys get started with the Action 5 Pro so you can start filming with it and get out there and start to capture some amazing footage with this great action camera. So let's get started with the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. First, let's just get your camera out of the box, and I want to show you guys everything that comes in the kit. So this is the Action 5 Pro, just standard combo. I'm also going to show you what comes in the Adventure combo, just in case you guys decided to pick that one up. This here is the Action 5 Pro standard combo, which comes with the most basic accessories. So you can open up the box here by where it says open right here, just open up that tab. And you'll see inside there's a box with all the accessories and also the Action 5 camera. So why don't you just get all those items out and unpack them? And you might want to push pause on this video because they're really well packaged in there. And just get all those out and lay them out so you can see them. So these are all the items that come with the standard combo. And on the left here, you can see all of the mounting accessories that you're going to use to mount the Action 5 Pro. And I'm going to go into these when we get into the mounting section of this video. Here's the Action 5 Pro camera, of course. Over here you have the battery and a charging cable, which we're going to set up in just a second. And under this DJI sticker, there's a quick start guide and also some other paperwork. So you can just set those aside. If you bought the Action 5 Pro Adventure combo, it also comes with these extra items. So right here is the DJI multi-function battery case, and it's a triple charger, and it also works as a portable power bank if you want to plug something else into it. It also comes with one of these extra magnetic quick clips. It's actually a low profile one, it's a little shorter. It also comes with this extension pole, which is a really nice lightweight handle you can extend out. Also, be sure to just rip this little sticker off the front of the lens and make sure that that lens cap there is tightened before you go in the water, because that's going to make sure that your camera is nice and waterproof. Now I'm sure you're really excited about your new camera, so I want to show you some of my favorite new features of the Action 5 Pro, just so you can get excited and see what the potential is before we get the camera all set up. One of the most exciting features of this camera is a new sensor. It's still a 1/1.3 inch sensor, so it's the same size, but this new sensor has up to 13.5 stops of dynamic range, which means if you're out filming in like tricky lighting scenarios, it's going to be able to get the bright areas and the dark areas for some really evenly toned footage. Now this is a big improvement. And there's also a new super night mode, which allows you to film in those low light scenes and capture some really great footage if you're out in the evening or at night or early in the morning. You just want to capture those low light scenes. It's going to really help out. The Action 5 Pro also has a new processing chip, and what that's going to do is just make the camera run more efficiently and give you longer battery life and less overheating. So the camera can record for up to 4 hours on a single battery, and I've found that recording in 4K at 60 frames per second, I can get about 2 hours of battery with just one single battery. So I'm really stoked on that. Also, they improved the screen so it's a little brighter, which is nice. And both screens run all the time. So no matter what settings you're in, you can see what you're filming on both of the screens. It's also waterproof to 20 meters as is. And they added some really cool pressure gauges. So if you're underwater or you're up high skydiving or something, it can show your elevation or your depth underwater. And there's some other cool settings I'll show you when we go through the camera tour. Now let's just get the Action 5 set up so you can start using it. The Action 5 Pro is the first action camera that I've seen with built-in storage. It comes with 47 gigabytes of built-in storage, so you don't have to use a microSD card right away, but I feel like as you start filming more and more, you're gonna probably wanna use a microSD card in addition to that built-in storage, just to give you additional storage when you're out filming. I'm gonna show you how to set it up with a microSD card just so you know how to do it. The microSD card goes under this door here, so you can just open that door up, slides up, and open it up. And inside there's this little slot here where you can put in the microSD card. You just want to push it down with your thumbnail so it clicks into place. So now let's just get the battery in the camera. If you did get the multi-function charger with the Adventure combo, then you can charge the battery before you put it in the camera. Just connect the multi-function charger to USB-C cable and connect it to a power source. Once you have a green light in front of one of those batteries, that means that the battery is fully charged. And you can take it out and then we're going to put it in the camera. If you bought the standard combo, you're going to charge that battery when it's in the camera. So grab the battery and just put it in this compartment right here, the same one where we put the microSD card. And then you can close that side door. Just make sure you slide it down completely so it's completely closed so that your camera is waterproof. because if that door is open at all and water gets in, it will ruin your camera. If you need to charge the battery in the camera, just go ahead and open up this side door right here. Insert the USB-C cable to the camera and to a power source. The camera display here is going to show the percentage of battery life. So you can push pause while it's charging, but luckily it does have quick charging, so it charges really quickly. When it says 100% on there, just unplug that cable, close the door completely so your camera is nice and waterproof and your camera is ready to use. Next, press the power button here on the side of the camera so we can power the camera on. And then you can choose the display language you want to use on the camera. Now it's going to prompt you to connect to the DJI Mimo app, which you need to do to activate the camera. If you don't already have the DJI Mimo app, go ahead and download it and then open up the app. And it's going to prompt you to connect to the camera. You can skip up to 5 times, but I recommend you just connect it now so your camera is ready to go and you don't have to try to connect somewhere where you don't have reception. I think it's best if you just press pause on this video while you go through and follow these steps. Once your camera is activated, make sure that the firmware is updated, so go up here and tap on this to update the firmware. It's going to update the firmware wirelessly from the app to your camera, just to make sure you have all the latest features on this camera. I always recommend that you keep that firmware updated, just so you can be sure you have the best features and any improvements that they've made to the cameras. After the firmware is updated, the camera is going to power off and power back on. You can just swipe up to close the DJI Mimo app, and I'm going to give you a tour around the actual physical camera and show you guys all the best settings and features. Knowing your way around this camera is key to being able to understand all of the features and really utilize everything that this camera can offer you. This right here is the lens cover that protects your camera's lens. You want to make sure that this stays nice and clean. You can buff it off with a cloth just to make sure there's nothing in front of your lens, because that's going to affect your shots. You've also got this rubber grip here around this lens cover, and that is removable. You can just slide it right off. You might want to do that if you're going in the water, or if you want to pop on an ND filter, you're going to need to remove that rubber grip. This lens cover is removable, but when you remove it, your camera's not waterproof. You'll see here if you unscrew it counterclockwise and take it off here, underneath it you've got this red rubber gasket. That's what's actually going to keep water out of your camera. So if you aren't going in the water, you can use this one that doesn't have a piece of glass in it. But for the most part, I would say just leave this glass one on your camera and you'll never need to really take it off. Inside the O of the Action 5 Pro, you'll see this little silver reflective area, and that's actually a color temperature sensor. So it's going to be taking a reading of the color temperatures to give you an accurate white balance. So you just want to make sure that you don't cover that up while you're filming. This is the front touch display, and on the back there's also another touch display. So both of these screens can be used to change settings. If you want to switch screens from one to the next, all you need to do is go to the inactive screen and tap it and then slide up, and that's going to switch that to be the active screen. On the top of the camera here, you just have the shutter button that's going to stop and start recording. You've also got a speaker here for playing back your videos. On the side of the camera here, you have this power or quick switch button. So if you press that, that's going to turn your camera on. Also, to turn your camera off, you just hold down that button and the camera will shut down. And this door here covers the USB port, which we used to charge your camera before. Both of the doors can actually also be removed. So if you're attaching your camera to the multifunction charging handle like this one, then you can remove this door just by popping it off like that. And always make sure that this door is completely closed. You don't see any red. That's going to keep your camera waterproof. On this side of the camera, we've got the door that holds the battery and the slot for the microSD card if you choose to use one. And on the bottom of the camera, you have a magnet, and you also have these latches here, which is used for attaching your camera to the mounts. And I'll show you guys that when we talk about mounting. The Action 5 Pro also has 3 microphones, including one hidden on the bottom for wind reduction, so you can get some nice internal audio with the camera as is. If audio is really important, you're doing something like an interview where you need the crispest, clearest audio, you can also pair the Osmo Action 5 with the DJI Mic 2. And you can choose to use 1 or 2 mics for 2 different audio channels if you need it. This is going to be really important to get that clear audio from each of your subjects. Now let's turn the camera on and take a look at the touch screen. So you just press the power mode button right here and turn your camera on. I'm going to use the back screen here just because it's a larger screen for you guys to see. If you do want to switch between screens, you can see this one here is locked. All you need to do is swipe up to unlock that screen, and that's going to make this the active screen. If this is the first time you've powered on your camera, it's going to give you all these little tips showing you the different movements on the screen. You can go ahead and just tap through them, and I'll show you these as we go through this tour. So this is the main screen you're going to see when you're changing your settings and composing your shots. I just want to show you what these icons are for, just so you guys can have a quick understanding of these. This icon here is to see the battery life. If you want to see the exact percentage, you can just tap on it, and it's going to show you the percentage of battery. This here shows how much recording time you can get in the current settings at the current mode. So as you change settings, that amount's going to change. but that's just gonna give you the amount of recording time either on the SD card or the internal storage if you're using that. This playback icon here is to view the photos and videos that you've already recorded with your camera, and we'll go through that in just a little bit. This icon here shows you the mode you're currently in, and right here shows the settings, including the resolution, frame rate, and field of view for that mode. We'll go in and change some of those in just a minute. And right down here is the touch zoom, so if you tap on that, you can actually slide the touch zoom slider and zoom in while you're recording or before and after recording. Right now we're in video mode. To change between the different modes, there's a few different options. You can tap on the mode icon here, and it's going to take you up to the modes, which you can then swipe and go between the different modes. You can also just swipe on the middle of the screen here, and that's going to get you to the same place. You can also press this quick switch button on the side of the camera here, and that's also going to scroll through your quick switch modes, which you can select which ones you want to show up. First, let's just take a look at the video mode settings, since that's probably the main reason that you bought this camera. So make sure that you're in video mode here. You'll see this little icon. Once you see that icon on the screen, tap on the settings here, and it's going to go into the settings dialog for your video settings. Up here in the corner, there's a few different video options. You just want to make sure that you're recording regular video. There's also pre-recording and looping video, but for right now, let's just do regular video, where you start and stop recording with the shutter button. This top line here is the resolution, which basically determines the size of the video that you're going to be recording. If you scroll to the other options here, you can see there's 2.7K, but we're going to go up to 4K at 16:9. These two numbers besides the resolution, 16:9 or 4:3, defines the aspect ratio, which is also the shape or proportions of your video. The 16:9 is the widescreen aspect ratio like you'll see on most YouTube players, whereas the 4:3 aspect ratio is going to be a little bit taller of a frame. So when you're filming like POV shots, for example, it's going to have a little bit extra of that top and bottom in your frame. That can be really helpful when you need to get more of the scene in your shot. But let's go back right now to 4K at 16:9, because that's a really common resolution and aspect ratio to work with. This line down here is the frame rate, or FPS, which stands for frames per second. Choosing a higher frame rate, like 60 frames per second, for example, is going to allow you to play your videos back in slow motion. So this number determines the amount of frames that are recorded each second. So if you want to play your videos back in slow motion, when you space out the video to play back longer, you have all those frames to work with, and it's going to allow you to have smooth slow motion. The Action 5 Pro records up to 120 frames per second in 4K, so you can get some really nice slow motion. If you want even slower motion, you can go down to 1080, and then it records at 240 frames per second, which is going to give you really super smooth slow motion, but it's not as high of a resolution. For YouTube, for example, you're going to want to be recording in 4K. So I'm just going to go back to 4K, 16:9 at 60 frames per second. Up in this corner here, you can set your stabilization and your field of view. So if you tap on this, it's going to go into that dialog. There's a few different options on the Action 5 Pro for your stabilization. For the most part, you're going to want to use Rock Steady, or even more stabilization is Rock Steady Plus. In some of the settings, you also have horizon balancing, which is a really fun setting to use because as you're holding the camera, it's going to level your horizon up to 45 degrees. It's a really convenient setting to use for those handheld shots, so you have a nice steady horizon as you carry your camera. But right now I'm just going to go back to Rock Steady because that's got more field of view options. The field of view over here determines the look of your video and the perspective, basically. So the tightest view that you have is the standard D-warp. That's kind of like a linear perspective. It's going to straighten out the horizons and be a little tighter. If you go to wide, you'll notice it zooms out a little bit. It's a little bit more of that fisheye effect, which can be useful for certain shots. And for the widest perspective you can get on this camera, you can go to ultra wide, and that's going to show you the most frame possible on the Action 5 Pro. But right now you can just set your camera to Rock Steady and might as well choose the standard D-warp lens so you can get those straight horizon lines. And then you can tap this to go back to the main screen. You can also push the power quick switch button, and that'll take you away that menu. There are a few other setting options that can be really important too, and that's right here in the settings parameters. If you tap on that, you'll see there's just a couple different settings right here. However, if you tap on Pro, it's going to open up more options for you to choose from. You can adjust these to kind of fine-tune your image, but I just want to show you one straight out of the gates that you might want to change, and that's the color right here. So if you tap on that, there's a few different color options. You have the normal 8-bit color, which is going to give you a nice saturated video, but if you switch it up to normal 10-bit color, that's going to give you a wider range of colors. So you might as well go with that one, especially if you're going to be adjusting your colors at all. The Action 5 Pro also has this HLG HDR 10-bit color setting. So this is for recording HDR videos. If you're going to be playing them back on an HDR monitor, it's going to give you that wide range of colors on an HDR monitor specifically. And then the last setting here is D-Log Mbit color, which is a flat color profile. If you're wanting to do a lot of color grading or use lookup tables, this is the one you can use for that. That's going to be for more advanced video editors. Right now though, I'm just going to go back to normal 10-bit color, and that's what I suggest you guys start with until you get more experience with your color grading. Since you guys are just starting out, this is a really good setting to start with. I'll put it up here on the screen if you need to copy the settings, but just start out with this 4K 16:9 at 60 frames per second with rock steady and a standard lens. There are lots of other settings you can also change, but right now I just wanted to help you guys get some nice, easy beginner settings to start with. Once you choose those settings, you can just pull down to go back to the main recording screen. Now that you have some video settings chosen here on your screen, you can tap on the shutter button to start recording your video. After you start recording, you can actually swipe down on the screen here to set the amount of time until the screensaver turns on, but I'll just go ahead and leave it at 5 minutes for right now. And when you're done recording, press the shutter button again to stop recording. The video is going to save over to your internal storage or your SD card right here on the camera. Also, if you're not quite up to speed on all these settings that I'm talking about, I have a great book for the Action 5 Pro that's going to tell you all of these things and explain them in more depth. It's going to give you the best settings to use, plus all the mounting tips and everything. So if you're needing some help, definitely check out my book. It's going to be a great resource for you to capture some really amazing shots. There's a link in the video description below, so I really recommend you grab a copy. It's really helpful. Now that you know about the video settings, let's take a look at some of the other fun modes here on the Action 5 Pro. If you go this way, you can go over to photo mode, and this allows you to take a still photo or a series of photos right here on the Action 5 Pro, and you can record up to 40 megapixel photos. So if you just set it to the large 4:3 setting, you can get that 40 megapixel photos. But of course, you're probably going to use this camera primarily for video, but it does have that option. Then if you scroll over this way, you've got the new Super Night mode. So if you tap on the settings here, you can see that it records up to 4K video, and it's going to have a lower frame rate because that's what you're going to want to use when you're recording in low light. Now when you're recording in Super Night mode, it's actually going to allow you to record at an ISO up to 51,200, and you're going to get really good footage at night. You just want to still hold your camera steady to avoid any of those jitters, but you're basically going to get as good a night video as you can get using an action camera with this mode right here. It can be really good for city shots or when you're out at night and you just want to get that low light footage. The next mode over is really interesting, which is subject tracking. And this actually allows you to track your subject as you're recording, and it's going to create some movement to look like somebody's actually filming and maybe following you. You can see it's available only up to 2.7K because it needs some area around the frame to work with to create that movement. I'm going to choose 2.7K at 16:9 at 60 frames per second. Once you choose your settings, just step in front of the lens and you'll see a yellow box. That just means that your subject is located here within the camera, and then it's going to start tracking you. So all you need to do is press record, and once you start recording, you'll see that the screen is moving with me. It's going to be reframing that. It's going to kind of look like the camera's on a tripod and moving around, or if somebody is actually filming me. And that's just kind of cool to be able to create that movement without actually moving the camera. This can be really useful for like a one-man production team where you want to have that movement really easily right in the camera and no one's there to film you. The next mode over, you have is slow motion. And this is just going to record videos at the highest frame rates available on this camera. So you've got 4K at 120 frames per second or 1080 at 240 frames per second. These videos aren't going to have audio recorded, and they will play back in slow motion when you play them on the screen here. The next mode over is time-lapse, and within time-lapse there's actually a lot of options. So if you tap on the settings, you'll see there's time-lapse and hyperlapse. Time-lapse is for recording those longer scenic shots, such as a city moving about, clouds in the sky, or a sunset, for example, something that happens over a longer period of time. And if you choose hyperlapse, hyperlapses allow you to carry your camera around and kind of create some movement with the camera as you're filming. They don't take as long to film, but they've got that really cool moving effect. So it's fun to take advantage of both of these to add into your videos for a really nice cinematic effect. There's also the dashboard here, so if you swipe down from the top of the screen, you'll see some icons here that give you quick shortcuts to some of the main settings you might need to change. You can set up custom presets or change how this quick switch button functions, even to switch screens if you want to. There's a few different options there. One really important one is the screen lock here. So if you're going in the water or if you've got your camera in your pocket, you want to lock the screen so that it doesn't change settings when you're not trying to. And under the settings icon here, there's tons of other settings for the Action 5 Pro. So if you scroll through this, I just want to show you a couple of things that are new on the Action 5 Pro and are also really useful. Right here is the wireless mic. So if you tap on that, you'll see that you can actually add 2 of those DJI Mic 2s like I told you. And you can get a separate audio track for each of them, which is really useful like for those interviews like I mentioned before. Another really cool feature that they added to the Action 5 Pro is this depth and altitude. So if you go in here, you can change the settings, but it's going to show you a gauge of how deep you go if you're underwater or how high you are if you're at higher elevations. So this can be really cool if you want to just be able to keep track of how far down you went underwater, for example, and how long you were there. I'm just going to go back to the main screen here. There are also some other settings you can change, but those are some of the main new ones here on the Action 5 Pro. If you swipe over to this screen here, this is where the storage is. So you can see it's on internal storage or SD card, and you can just tap on the next one to switch to the other storage. It can be really convenient if you run out of storage, for example, on the SD card and you want to use the internal storage. You've always got some storage with you. This is also where you can format the internal storage or the SD card to erase all those files and start fresh. And then after you're done with that, you can just swipe up to go back to the main recording screen. When you want to view the files that you've recorded, you can tap on the playback icon right here, and it's going to bring the last file that you recorded. You can also tap on this grid, and it'll show a grid of all the videos on your camera's microSD card. Then you can just tap on one of the icons that you want to view. On the screen here, you can just watch your video by pressing play. And if you record it in a higher frame rate, such as 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second, you can also tap this little slow motion icon. And what this does is it's going to create a short little super slow motion clip from wherever you stopped. So it's going to actually create it 4 times slower than the slow motion you recorded. And what it's going to do, it's going to interpolate, which means it's going to make up the frames that aren't there to create that extra slow motion. So it's not going to be perfect because it's being digitally created, but it's really cool when you want that slow motion. It's also going to save it to your microSD card, so you can use that video if you want to. It's kind of like optical flow, if you know about that in Premiere or Final Cut Pro. Yeah, it does it right here in the camera. And then right here you can also choose to delete or mark your videos so you can see which ones you liked. And then I'm going to go back to the main recording screen. When you're done with the camera, just hold down the power quick switch button and the camera will power off. You can also use the DJI Mimo app to connect to your camera. Just make sure your camera is powered on first and then open up the DJI Mimo app. Since you've connected before, it's going to automatically prompt you to connect to your camera. And through the Mimo app, you can actually control all of the camera's settings and the different modes here by just tapping this little icon here. Then it's going to give you a preview of what your camera is seeing. If you are in a widescreen setting here, it's going to show you the preview of what the camera is seeing full screen. So if you just rotate your phone, then you can get the full view of what your camera is seeing. To change modes, you just drag right on the mode there. You can change any of the settings by tapping here or these icons over here, and you can start and stop recording right here through the Mimo app. It's basically like a remote for your camera, so it's pretty cool. Now let's talk about mounting the Action 5 Pro. So the Action 5 Pro can be used like this, of course. You can just hold your camera and go film. But you're going to want to mount it to capture some unique angles and unique shots. Mounting the Action 5 Pro is really easy. You just want to take the mounting buckle that came with your camera and have the DJI logo facing the front here, and then grab your camera so that the front of the camera is also facing the front. And it's going to kind of just snap into place because it's magnetic. But you want to make sure you push it down all the way so that both of these little clasps lock onto your camera. You can hear them click into place. And you can test those by pulling up on the camera, and neither side should move. If you pull up and one of these sides moves, your camera isn't mounted properly. So just make sure it's pushed all the way into place and both sides are clasped in. Then you can just attach this mounting adapter to any mount that has these 3 prongs like this. And you just slide them in just like that. Take a thumb screw, insert it in here, and just make sure all the holes are lined up fully. Sometimes you got to kind of wiggle to make those holes line up, and then tighten the thumb screw into place. What's really nice about these quick release adapters is it's super easy to move your camera from one mount to another, especially if you have 2 of these adapters. You can just squeeze the little tabs together here, lift your camera off, and you just grab another mount, you just click it on there, make sure it's snapped into place, and your camera's ready to go. If you got the adhesive mount, you can just stick this onto a helmet or any other curved surface, and then you can slide this buckle into these 3 prongs just like you did here with the extension pole. This here is the protective frame, and this allows you to mount your camera vertically when you want to get those vertical orientation shots. To mount your camera in here, all you need to do is look at the top of this protective frame. You'll see there's a shutter button icon here and a little latch. Just lift that latch to open up the frame, and then slide your camera in from the front so that the shutter button on the camera is lined up with the shutter button on the frame. And just slide it into place. And once it's slid in place, just close this little latch here and your camera is nice and secure. So if you want to mount your camera vertically so you can get vertical videos, just look for these little latches on the bottom of the protective frame. And then you can just mount them on the buckle here, just like I showed you before. You just want to make sure both of those clasps grab onto the latches on the bottom of this protective frame. They click into place and your camera is nice and secure. The Action 5 Pro is so small and there are tons of great ways to mount this camera. If you do have it on a pole like this extension rod that came with the Adventure combo, then you can just extend it out to create more distance between you and your camera. to get some really cool shots. Also, just so you guys know, the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro does not float. So if you are going in the water with this camera, make sure to use a floating handle like this one that's going to float your camera if you do drop it in the water, just so it doesn't sink to the bottom. Now that your camera's set up and you're armed with some basic knowledge about how to use it, why don't you go out there and film something that you're passionate about? The potential of what you can create with this little tiny camera is huge. So when you come back, I'm going to show you how to transfer your photos and videos over using the DJI Mimo app. Also, don't forget about that Action 5 book that I created for you guys. It's got tons of inspiration and all of the technical knowledge you need to start filming and to tap into that full potential. Now that you've got your clips on there that you want to work with, let's just go ahead and transfer those files over to your phone, tablet, or a computer. If you want to transfer your files over to a computer, all you need to do is attach your camera using that USB-C cable from your camera over to the computer. Power your camera on and select File Transfer, and it's going to open it up as an external drive, and you can just drag those files over. You can do this whether you used internal storage or a microSD card. If you want to transfer your files over to a phone or a tablet, just go ahead and power your camera on first, and then open up the DJI Mimo app. If it doesn't prompt you to connect, just go ahead and tap this icon right here, the camera icon. It's going to prompt you to connect to your camera. Once your camera is connected to the app, if it doesn't open up in the album, you can just tap on this icon here. That's going to go to the album that shows all the files that are stored on your camera's storage. So you can just tap on a clip that you want to work with and go in and see that clip here. There's some tools here within the app that are really useful for editing this individual clip here. I recommend making any changes to your clip before you download it here, because that's going to download it with those changes applied. But if you want to download it to your phone so you have it to work with, just tap on this little icon right here, and that's going to download that file. So it's got a lot of the basic tools that you'll see in any editing app. You can go through and explore those more to just see how you can adjust things and trim, for example. There are also a couple tools here I want to show you that are unique to the DJI Mimo app. There's the InvisiStick tool. The InvisiStick tool can be used to remove the extension pole from your shots. It's not perfect for sure. You can only export the videos in up to 1080p, but it's a fun tool to use for social media, for example. You just want to make sure that your background is kind of plain behind it to get the best results. And the Vivid Underwater tool here is made specifically to color grade your underwater footage. So when you tap on that, you can apply how much you want that filter applied to your shots. It's just going to adjust those colors for underwater footage specifically. After you've made any changes, you can export the clip even in 4K so that you can use it in any other editing app. If you do want to make some multi-clip edits using the DJI Mimo app, you can also go over here to this editor icon. That's just going to give you some preset templates and some tools to create multi-clip edits right here in the DJI Mimo app. But you might end up wanting to use any other editor that you're familiar with. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found that really helpful. I know you're going to capture some amazing content. If you still need to buy the camera, there is a link in the video description below, so pick up a copy through that link, and it does help out my channel. Now get out there and have fun filming.